we got it working, it's kind of like a fun moment because we just start posting statuses and things like that. What's up? Help or question? Help? Anyone need help? Question or help? 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 Guys? Oh, come on. There's my awesome.
Yeah, so in theory, you could also do something like find the ID, define the different stories, and like set the information. So it should that it's like appending adds things on, which is nice. So you can have almost story, whereas that you get the text inside, like append text. So it's like it's just
So you can do that from the new status text.
Sure. So yeah, so this has to do with referential story. Stories is always a pointer to the positive. So what you can do is you can say stories you can still set it.
Yeah, you can wrap it inside the function you want. You know what I mean? Remember we talked about the item function? Yeah. So just try it and like it doesn't work.
Does anyone have it working? Raise your hand. No, you guys. Nice. Good job. Cool. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna start typing it in. It's really quite cool when it starts working. I'm just thinking like how much you just did. But new story equals document dot create. You know? That's okay. Div, okay. So that's the new div that I want to add. And then what I find the div, I'm going to add to const stories div document dot get element e stories. And finally, I need the text. I'm going to const new story text equals document get element value. So I need to get this, remember? And again, I can search through my HTML. So yeah, I can search through my HTML and find the new status text right there. So new get element by ID new status text. Okay, but this is will be the element. All I care about is the text, so I can just do straight from there and do inner text. Right? Or actually, I think it's value. So one thing about text boxes, I think you can just get the text by value. I think actually. So, and again, if you Google that, you can find it. So forth and so get text from text box JavaScript. HTML DOM input. So yeah, so you get the value of a text box. It's just kind of the thing that you do. So so now I have the text. So this is a string. This is a DOM element. This is a DOM element. So I want to set my new story inner text equal to new story text. And finally, I want to append that div to the stories div. Stories div append child new story. All right. Let's see if it works out. So let's refresh. Okay. Let's try making a status. 6148. So cool. Okay. If we post, look at that. We got a new bit. So you can see you can start posting random things, and you can post it actually many times. So it just programs the ads and updates every single time. It's really awesome. The little bonus stuff that I said, if you want to empty it out like an actual kind of status bar, you can do new story. What you can do is I'm going to save the const new story text elements input document get elements new status text, and this will be new story text input value. And then here what I can do is if I want to empty it out, new story text input value equals. So now if I refresh, okay, every time I make a post, it empties out the thing. So it's like a little thing, and you can say like, wow, JavaScript. It is amazing. Post, and you see it posts the new status on my feed.
People try it and they don't understand why it doesn't go straight to the show.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So really quick, I'm sure many people have this problem. So like, if there's lots of places that this can go wrong, right? So if you don't know what's going wrong, remember, you want to check the error messages. And the error messages show up in the console. So one of the things you want to do is you want to inspect, okay? And you can go to console. Remember, that's just right-click on the page, inspect, and there's a tab called console, okay? And so if you had some errors, like let's say again, if I tried like trying to do story instead of stories, story, right? And like maybe that was a mistake. And then when I click, you can see, oh wow, it can't append child of null. What does that mean? Well, first off, you can see the line number here, index.js at line 17. In fact, if I click on it, it'll actually give me a little preview of that code and shows me nicely where the error is. So it says, okay, it says that it can't append the child. It says it can't find the property of null, which means that stories div must be null. So now I'm thinking, okay, what's wrong with stories div? Why is it null? And I could think, okay, well, this ID must be wrong, and then I figure out that it's stories and not story.
Another thing that you might be having issues is like typos can cause like a whole lot of problems, obviously. Like, I don't know. One might be like, okay, let's say I said clicks here. So click, right? And now if I type something and post, you can see it does nothing. And you're like, wait, there's no error message, nothing's happening, what's going on? Like, why isn't anything happening? So when something like this happens, you're like, okay, well, is this function ever being called? Like maybe my code is stopping before it even gets here. Okay, so maybe a good way to test that is you can do console.log, like some test when I am here, right? This is a really simple but jank kind of way to test it, but it works. And you can be like, okay, maybe this function is not being called. I want to see where is it breaking. Is it breaking here? Is it breaking after this? Maybe I'll add a console.log here. I'm not really good at that, but and if I refresh it and then I click post, you can see, oh, nothing's being logged to the console, which means this line isn't being executed at all. Which means you just narrowed your where your bug could be basically to above that. So that means that, okay, there must be a bug here or something. Okay, so we can test the two things. Post button, am I getting the right element? Yes. Am I adding the event listener correctly? Oh, I made clicks instead of click. That's wrong. Refresh, added it. Post. So yeah, that's kind of how you debug. Question, what's up?
How did you know to do dot value?
Dot value. So yeah, I was talking about this while I was writing it, but it's a quick Google. So what I did is I searched get text from textbot JavaScript. Okay, and then the very first link is from W3 Schools, and it says you can get the value or change the value of a text field by doing dot value. Okay, and this is kind of one of those things that you'll learn. Input boxes are very, very common in most websites. So just in general, you want to use dot value for input text and things like that. And I believe for input check boxes, it actually returns out true or false, something like that. Yeah. Anyone have questions, thoughts? Does everyone figure this out? Can everyone actually do this? Because if you can't, wait to do it for you. Let's go to here. So yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the internet is your friend. I have that in here too. Man. All right. This is the solution that I just wrote up. Again, let's just review it one more time. We're getting the post button. We're adding an event listener to the post button on a click that does the following function. The function finds the text input, okay, and it says the value in that text input is the new status that I want to post, okay. It then finds the stories div where I want to insert that new status. It creates the new element that I want to insert called new story, okay, by creating a div. It sets its inner text to that new status that I got from the text input, and then it appends the child to the stories div, okay. One question someone had up there that was really important: why append child? Well, you see that when you add a lot of actually divs, it just like goes right on beneath each other, which is really handy. And you actually want to do this a lot in like when you're doing things in code. So, for example, like you could also technically do this by finding the stories div and just manually setting the inner HTML. But then every time you're going to get the HTML, you're going to append a string of HTML to the bottom of that HTML and return the HTML. Append div is just so much easier, or append child is so much easier. And the final thing I did was just set the text input value to the empty string so that it clears out the text input. Anyone have questions?
How do we know that we're creating a div in stories?
So yeah, that's what Appendchild does. So at this point right here, I've created a div, but it's not anywhere on the HTML. Okay? I've changed its text inside it, but it's still not anywhere on the HTML. Appendchild, what it does is you have a div element, and it makes it the last child of that element. Okay? So if this, I can just show it. Let's go to here, and let's add some more statuses. Okay? Let's inspect this. Okay? So you can see that here's the stories div, and look, my comment is still here. Stories are inserted here. And you can see below it, I've inserted these divs. And so every time I append something to this div, it comes at the bottom case. So you can actually see it in real time, which is kind of nice. A new story. Post. And you can see, bam, it flashes on right there at the end. Other questions?
How do you add it to the beginning?
How do you add to the beginning? So there's Appendchild, there's also prepend. If you want to find specific places, you use IDs. Again, I'm using Appendchild because it's just one of many, many functions that you can use in JavaScript to modify the DOM, the HTML, but Appendchild is one of the most common ones, so that's the one I use. You use prepend to put it to the beginning. You can do a lot of different things. Again, quick Google searches. Anyone else have questions? What's up?
So if you wanted to update the like new cat status in there, is that just like dot placeholder? Does that
Yeah.
enter another status or something like that?
Yeah, so you mean like the gray text in the...
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't mention that because that was part of the pre-built code. That's going to go over that after this, but in index.html, I added an input. That's kind of what the text box looks like, or that's what it looks like in HTML. And you can see it has a few attributes: type, text, class. That's a bootstrap class. ID. I gave the ID so you can find it. And finally, if you want to change the placeholder, you can right here, new cat status. Now, the interesting thing is this is an attribute on an element, so if you wanted to, you can also change this programmatically by doing set attribute placeholder to whatever you're doing. Any other questions? Cool. What's up?
How do you detect if the return press?
Yeah, so it doesn't do that right now, right? Detecting a return press is slightly harder than expected. So you can do it. And I'd say Google it, because I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Because, yeah.
Yeah, it's just another event listener that's used by the key instead of like, you can box out.
There you go. There you go. Hey, TAs. Alright. Yeah, another event. And so yeah, actually I should mention that. So I just talked about the click event right here. Right, that does something, but like there are other events that you can also do. For example, there's hover. If you remember, CSS has the hover function. You can do it in CSS, but you can also do it in JavaScript. Hover is another thing. There's a bunch of different events that you can watch. And for again, like a full list of events, you can like look JavaScript event types. I think. Yeah. So on change, on click, things like that. So, all right. Any other questions? Okay.
What was the question that was just asked?
Oh, she was just asking how you would, like, instead of saying the post button, how would you, like, post a status if you just want to click enter? Like, you type the status and click enter. One cheating way to do that, by the way, is you can turn it into a form and it just automatically does that. Yeah. Happy solutions. But if you want to look into that more, you can look into that. All right, so now that we've done that, looks like we did quite a bit. So I hope you're like excited. And if you didn't quite figure out the solution, you can find my solution by also, of course, checking out the final branch, complete, git stash git checkout complete. If you want to, it's basically what I just showed you. But yeah, in conclusion, you use JS, JavaScript to interact with boxes. We talked about several things today, but most importantly, you use it in web development to modify elements, create elements, and give them certain actions. Okay? And you use that using the main functions are find element by ID, or get element by ID, excuse me, and append child, and add event listen. Okay? And so that's all for that JavaScript. I know that was a long one. I hope you guys understand as much as you can. We're going to give you a 5-minute break or so, and then after that, I'm just going to review some of the Bootstrap stuff because yesterday's lecture was cut short. But if you're also don't care about that, that's fine. But yeah, it'll be really cool Bootstrap stuff. 5 minutes, take some time.